How's it, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Stories Beyond the Field. I'm Gabe Kalama,
I'm Hayden Kalama.
and today we are joined by
I'm
my
Noah
buddy Noah
Acosta.
Acosta. Well, that works out.
My bad.
Anyway, Noah, I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you for
Of
coming on
course.
today. Hayden, take
Yeah,
it
yeah.
away.
Give you a little rundown on Noah here. He graduated from David Douglas High School, opened up his senior night with a pick six. That's how you know he was a baller. He was honorable mention for all conference at the safety position, and he currently attending Pacific University where he played football from 2022 to 2025. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's great to see you. Thank you for having
All
me.
right, of course,
Yeah, of
man.
course.
Let's get into it with some little bit of a easy warm-up questions. So for starters, what was it like to grow up in Portland?
I think there's a negative stereotype with Portland, and it has issues, of course, but most of my life was pretty chill, just suburban neighborhood. Do whatever I can to stay active. Of course, there's always the issues of Portland around me, but you kind of just learn to push it aside, live your own life, and when it comes into your life, try to handle it your best. But probably just like any other city, suburban kind of life, go to school, play sports, eat, repeat.
Did you ever feel like it kind of made you like a street smart person living in Portland?
I think definitely I had to learn some street smarts to get around.
Yeah, I mean, Portland is a little bit crazy, but yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk about, obviously, I know you as a football player. So let's talk about why or when did you start playing football?
I originally had the fascination well into elementary school, but my mom wouldn't let me. Till eventually around fourth grade, she signed me up for a club flag football. And after that, I took off with it. I enjoyed it, had a lot of fun. I played mainly defensive reps there, but I still always wanted to be a receiver. Finally get to middle school in eighth grade. Finally was able to play tackle football. Mom finally signed the permission slip. Didn't do much there, too scrawny to really play. And then kind of took it all the way from middle school to college.
Sick, man. Yeah, that's always the thing, huh? Parents are always hesitant to be like, no, you can't play football until you reach a certain size and age.
Never got that size, but it's okay.
Yeah. So now let's talk about growing up. Did you ever have like a favorite player to watch, either in college or the NFL?
Being a Seahawks fan, I really looked up to Doug Baldwin. Just the way he could run his routes. Nobody knew whatever he was doing. You think he's going one way, he's going the opposite. So that's who I really enjoyed watching growing up. I could never really adapt his game style into my own because we had completely different archetypes for our position, I would say. But that was definitely my favorite player growing up. He was just electric to watch.
Dang, you literally answered my next question. I was going to ask you what aspects of their game did you bring to your own, but what was it about his route running that you really liked?
Like I said, it's just every time he was on the field, you didn't know what route he was running, regardless of whatever his body was telling you. You think he's running one thing, but he could just put all his weight in one foot and turn around. That is kind of an aspect I always wanted, but it wasn't to my skill set that I could adapt. So I tried to just be as athletic and consistent as I could be.
Amen. That to attest that, I definitely remember watching Doug Baldwin play against Green Bay, where he's going up against rookie Jair Alexander, and he completely fools Alexander into thinking he's running a go route, and then he runs a comeback and leaves Alexander completely out of the frame. So that is definitely a factual statement, and I fucking hated watching Doug Baldwin play against the Packers. So now let's kind of bring it to high school football. So what was high school football like in David Douglas or the Portland area?
It was intimidating. I went to the biggest school in Oregon, campus size wise. We had like 13 different buildings, student body of 3,600. I really wanted to play football and come to it. There's a lot of kids on the team. I'm like intimidated. I'm like, am I even going to make the team? They didn't make cuts, so it was fine. But just the sheer number, you really had the idea of like, am I going to be good enough? Am I going to outperform? Because there's a lot of different people you're going to have to play against. And for the first 2 years, I rarely touched the field. I primarily was just, again, defensive player. Nobody really wanted to play safety, so I kind of jumped up there. Mainly got reps my sophomore year, but I guess I was very undersized. I was shorter. Coming in my freshman, sophomore year, I was only about 5'7", 130 pounds, so real small. But I had the passion, I had the drive to continue wanting to play. Then around COVID time, we had, obviously, our season canceled, and I kind of took it on myself to try and gain mass and become the best player I could be. All the at-home garage workouts later, I grew like 3 inches, gained 30 pounds of body mass somehow. Came back junior year, about 6 foot, about 160. And that's when I started getting actual starting position reps at receiver and safety. Carry that into senior year, still worked hard because no position's ever guaranteed to keep my 2 starting spots, especially since we just got a new head coach. I wanted to show him that I'm still his number one guy. Won both those spots back. Didn't have a huge role on the team at receiver because we played double wing T. So most of my thing was just run straight and block was 80% of the plays that I had. When I did, I would get the ball a little bit, mostly came off short passes. It's nothing too impressive or flashy for game day tape. Like I've been saying, I unfortunately was my main highlight tape was at safety. That's where I played the most because our offense was either couldn't move the ball or we'd score in 2 plays. So that kind of, messed with my head as like, I want to be a receiver growing up. That's what I want to play. But if I have zero game tape on it, how's it going to affect my future?
And you talked about your COVID year. Who really helped you kind of stay in that mentality of just getting better for yourself, getting better so you can improve the next year? Because obviously nobody's there to help you with the guidelines that we had. So was like your dad a huge figure kind of telling you, or a family member telling you like you should do this so it improves you next year? Or was it all you just telling yourself, I'm doing this to help myself for the future?
Mostly it was just myself. I kind of just believe talent was a fixed thing. Nobody could get better. You're born how you're born. But I'd always heard like that growth mindset thing coming from school and in sports. So I wanted to put it to the test. Not to like toot my own horn, but I think it was mostly me just trying to prove to myself that I could get better. I had a couple friends that I'd always ask to go throw the ball, go practice with, and they were consistently saying yes. There's some days for 3 days in a row, we'd spend 6 hours at the football field, just throwing, running routes, getting better. So I definitely owe it to them. They helped me stay consistent. They helped me actually get some work in. We were still having fun, joking around, but when we had to, we got serious. We were focusing on learning to be the best possible players we could be. And it helped that my two buddies was a quarterback, a defensive back. So we just ran one-on-ones all day, just trying to get each other better.
And in a time of like COVID, that's so important because a lot of people, their seasons get canceled and stuff and they get lazy. They don't want to work. But when you want to put in the work and you want to better yourself for your own future, I think that says a lot. And how convenient for your two buddies to be a quarterback and a DB. Like that's the most perfect buddies you could possibly have because you guys are always just being, iron sharpening iron and making each other better every day. Now let's talk about Pacific. Obviously, we both played at different times. I played it the year before you got here, and then I was like, nope, screw this, I'm out. So why did you choose Pacific? And did you have other offers that you considered before committing here?
I chose Pacific mainly because it was closer to home and it had a program academically I would enjoy. I've only ever lived in Portland my whole life. I've never been outside of that. So a big part for me was kind of staying close to home, at least close enough where I could see my family. So I did discover the Pacific Northwest. Pacific was honestly very late offer for me. My top before was Puget Sound because they were very adamant on recruiting me since junior year. They were very saying, we want you here, inviting me to camps. And that's where I thought I was going to go. But then I think like a month before signing day, Coach Kraft from Pacific sends me a text message on one of the many recruiting and film apps I had just to get my name out there. Sends me a text, asks if I could take a call. And I was like, yeah, I'll take a call on this day. But I forgot I was hanging out with my cousin at his house. But luckily, my cousin he wants to do YouTube. So he had like an office for recording. So I was like, can I borrow your office to get a phone call? Called Coach Kraft. He said, senior game day tape. I want to invite you for a visit if you would like to Pacific University. And I was like so dead set on Puget, but I'm like, you know what? It's another offer. Might as well come out and see what's up. When I first got here, I liked how the visit went. I like how they treated me more as a person than just a prospect, I would say. Kind of liked the idea of staying on campus, learning the life of Pacific. I think that's ultimately what did it in for me, was just kind of the connection I felt here to the campus. Other places like Puget Sound, they really just like, we want you for football, 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 football was all they're kind of drilling into my head. But it felt like these coaches cared a little bit more about who I was as a person. So I think at the time, that's kind of what did it in for me. And it was closer to home. So
That's brilliant. I love it. Did you ever notice that playing at a D3 school, did you feel that you had an easier time connecting with coaches and learning the playbook? Or did you ever just feel like you were just another member on the roster that didn't get much attention?
I think at a D3 level, I think I definitely connected with coaches. I mean, we're in the trenches here. We kind of have to see these same guys with not the same equipment, budgets, and everything. I mean, we're in classrooms watching film. I think it really happened, at least with my coaches, they try to build a relationship with me. We joke around. We'd make a team playlist every season of our number one song. And my coach would always play it before meetings. So we would always joke around, have fun. I can't say if it'd be different to like D1 or D2 schools. I'd hope it'd be the same. You're building a relationship with your coach. Doesn't full like friendship, but it kind of touches into it. But I think definitely here, having what we have, spending almost every day with these guys, building a connection with my coach was definitely something I think would be more of a D3 thing. Playbook wise, I mean, it's just a lot. I feel like no matter where you go, it's a lot. Uh, Especially here, we did hand signals for play calls. So my freshman year, it was really just like drinking from a fire hose. It was a lot to take in at first.
I remember those days of drinking from a fire hose at practice. That was kind of crazy. Definitely felt like a college football moment for sure. Oh, obviously playing college football, it's a different breed compared to high school or Pop Warner or whatever level you start off, right? How did playing college football kind of affect your mental health both positively and negatively?
I'll start with positive. I think ultimately it made me gain confidence because, I'm one of the lucky few that say I can make it to a NCAA division of athletics. So I think that made me believe in myself more, just have more overall confidence, kind of carry myself a little bit better. I still acknowledge that there's other better people out there. There's a lot of other better receivers out there than me. So I still kind of had that humility, I would try and say. I never thought I was better than anyone else because I made it. There's athletes on my team that were better athletes than me, but they just didn't have the grades or the want or the drive to continue going. So I think that definitely made me feel better about myself, knowing that I could get to this point of athletics, call myself part of that group that actually made it. And I think definitely it gave me an inner circle of friends, or at least acquaintances that I think I could count on immediately. I didn't have to worry about making friends. I already had 100 plus people that knew my name that I would see every day. Negatively, definitely lack of sleep at times, trying to juggle everything. I think at first it's a lot to take in. So didn't really know how to deal with that at first, kind of figuring it all out. How do I study? How do I study my playbook? How do I stay on top of things? How do I look like I'm a good athlete or a good player to my coaches? Definitely times, even though it did help me be more confident, if I made mistakes too consistently or I couldn't improve at a certain quality of my game, definitely got in my head about it. Didn't think I was gonna make it. Didn't think I'd be able to do anything for this team, but I just had to shake out of that mentality and realize that I had to play to my strengths, play my game, and I can't let these kind of things get to me all the time.
Kind of adding more to that, what kind of mental pressures come with being a collegiate athlete that people don't really know about?
I think it sounds silly, but like kind of the immediate bias or stereotype you're going to get depending on the sport you play. Obviously, there's always stereotypes with football players. So countless times I'll tell people I play football and they'll immediately have some opinion about me before meeting. And I feel like that's not like a lot of pressure, but it's a little bit to keep in mind that you're going to have to try harder to convince people otherwise. I think at least football, it makes you your own worst enemy. Like you can never give yourself a win, never give yourself a chance to be happy. You always want more, you need to do better. So even when I was confident, there's always more I know I could fix and be better at. So I was never happy. I always wanted to do more, push myself more.
I think that's the beautiful thing about football is that it always keeps you wanting to get better, and it does a really fantastic job of keeping you humble because, like, I mean, there's always going to be someone bigger, stronger, and faster than you. There's always going to someone that's going to put you on your butt. There's always going to be that guy that's better than you, and you have to like consistently kind of keep yourself on track to make sure that you are doing the best you can for yourself, and you're keeping yourself in track to be where you want to be. And it's also like that the beautiful thing about the game is it really builds a brotherhood with your teammates too. But I definitely agree about that point about like people have like a misconception about every football player finding out that you're a football player. Like everybody's gonna think you're just this mean jock who just like bullies people around because you play football and you're this big strong guy, blah blah blah. You know, so that I definitely understand. Now, most people, I would say, at this school have had some moments with the Pacific football team. So did you ever feel like there was a moment on this team where you felt like overwhelmed? And if so, how did you overcome it?
I think parts where I felt overwhelmed was definitely my first year. Like I'm always saying, it's so much to take in all at once. I didn't really know how to handle it. I think with that situation, I learned just to keep my head down, do everything I can handle at one time, put everything off that I can't do. As bad as it says, like put everything off for the next day, trying to chunk everything that I could handle at that time and realize that if I can't get to everything, there's tomorrow, there's the next hour, there's after class, there's after practice. So just handle what I can handle in that moment, control what I can control. And even then, that's difficult, just realizing, just accept that you can control and fix the rest later. And then one thing no one really taught me or I figured out was injuries. I think that's a huge one. The first time I got like an actual injury here and had to deal with training staff, they don't really tell you how to do it, so you kind of got to figure it out. And it's always nerve-wracking trying to make sure you're doing it right. I don't think I generally figured out how to do our training rooms until like maybe halfway through sophomore season. But just like the mental fatigue and issue that comes with that, dealing with an injury and how it impacted my mental health while trying to stay consistent in classes, keep my social relationships going, and just keep my life together, honestly. struggling mentally because I can't, I'm sitting for 5 hours a day just watching everyone else do the sport that I love.
Speaking of your injuries, you suffered some injuries.
Mhm.
When things are heating up and you were about to earn some more in-game reps, how did you cope with getting hurt when you were so close to becoming a piece of the process?
Honestly, I don't know if I did. I still kind of hold that over myself that like I was this close to stepping up and then I had to get injured. Like, of course, timing was perfect. I think in the moment, I just told myself if I could get there once, I can get there again. I'll get a shot again. That if I had the effort and they saw the talent that I could get there and be a player for them on the down, special teams, offense, whatever, that they'll see it again if I continue working. I think that's kind of what helped me. And then really hitting the training room hard, trying to rehab my injuries as much as possible, get back on the field as quickly as possible so I don't lose any momentum.
Kind of building off talking about the coaching staff a little bit. How was your relationship with the team and the coaches in general? Did you feel close to them or kind of feel like an outcast and that you didn't really belong on the team?
Kind of both, I would say. I feel like I had a decent relationship with my position coach. I feel like I had a good relation, or I feel like I had a good relationship with my position coach. I feel like I had a good relationship with our offensive coordinator and some of the other coaches. They would all know me by name. They would all talk to me. I feel like the most distant connection was actually our head coach. I think I was definitely closest with defensive coordinators than our head coach at times. I don't know if that's just a him thing or just product of the system, but definitely felt like he was the least connected to me the entire time. Definitely felt like I would go to any of the other coaches before, but that's whatever reason for it.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, even when I played, he was my position coach, and I still felt very, very distant from him. I'm not really sure what it was. It just seemed like other coaches kind of just cared a little bit more, I think I would say. But that's just kind of like the way I look at it. Now, did you feel like the coaching staff here did a good job of protecting their players' mental health? Like, did they check in from time to time, or did they just not really care at all?
I would give that a yes to my position coach, not as much other coaches. I think my position coach was really the only one to consistently check in on me, even when I wasn't doing bad. He'd always start meetings with like, "Oh, how are people doing?" Even in practice, he'd be like, "How are the legs? How are you feeling? What are you up to? What kind of practice do you need to have today?" Which I really valued and I really enjoyed. I think other coaches didn't really pay attention to my mental health as much until it did get bad. There was a time I had to take a hiatus from the team my sophomore year for family issues. At that point, I think since I was actually away from the team, some coaches every now and then would be like, "Oh, how are you doing? What's going on? Are you doing okay?" But other than that, I think they're just too absorbed, too busy with football to always check in with students' mental health. It's not very advocated.
How do you think coaches can do a better job of protecting their athletes' mental health and kind of just like making sure that they feel seen when things are not going their way mentally?
I think it's just the simple thing of asking your players how they're doing. Just make that room, invite them to talk. First, build that level of comfortability with your athlete, and then let them know that they can come to you if they need. I think that's the number one thing is just showing that you're available. Because if you don't make that shown, I'm not going to go to you.
Did you find that you were more comfortable speaking about these problems with people on your football team or more outside of your football team?
It really depended on the issue. I think with more personal stuff, definitely with my people outside my team. But with smaller life stuff, I feel like we're all a brotherhood down there. I could complain, I could vent, rant, whatever I need to. They would listen, and then we'd go hit each other for 2 hours. I think you can build a relationship where you can kind of complain to these guys. I mean, you've been through worse together to where they'll understand and they'll say something to try and be there for you at least.
Did you find that it was easier to talk to people outside of the team just because you had kind of that better relationship outside of the pads and you were more free to speak with other things about football, where on your team it was mainly just there for football, talk about what we're going through plays, talk about what we went through with school, and then you just wrap it up and then you're gone until you see them the next day.
Yeah, I think when football time was happening, I tried to keep it strictly football. I don't think I tried to put more of my mental health issues or just anything on my teammates. For me, football was a time to kind of disconnect from the world, so I didn't want to bring any of my outside problems to football. So I don't think, I mean, that's probably why I didn't talk to them as much. I think when I got to my personal life, if my teammates were part of that, that's when they would hear, or I think it was just easier for that way since I kind of dissociate the two.
So, how would you say you really took care of your mental health when you were playing football?
I, I mean, practices, games, getting that moment to kind of literally run my frustrations out. And then when that wasn't enough, trying to lean on my support group around me, my friends, my girlfriend, sometimes parents when they could. even though they're farther away. But I think most of it came from just having a friend group that was opening to listen and to help with whatever I needed and help me aid what I was going through.
Did you ever let those emotions influence you on the field? Did it ever help you positively kind of put more effort into running routes, blocking, or did it ever really affect you negatively? I know for me, playing with a lot of emotion, like it made my game super sloppy, and it really brought me down. So I always tried to keep level headed. But for you, it could be different.
I think definitely it was a positive or negative thing. There's some days I'd just be really mad. If we're doing blocking drills, just the pure force I could use, the pure aggression and anger I could let out. Because I mean, we're all trying to kill each other in practice. We're all trying to show who's best. But then there's definitely days where I was overly emotional. I let things get to me. My steps weren't right. My blocking wasn't right. My routes were off. Just that running with too much aggression or too much in my head or thinking about too much. I think it's what happened to me when my mental health was low. Is I would think too much in practice. Then I would try and do everything too perfect, and then I just start messing up.
Yeah, that's that's kind of thing is like I felt always felt too like those blocking drills were like my therapy when I was playing football because like even if things weren't going my way and I didn't really feel like talking to anybody, I could just hit somebody and like at least release a little bit of whatever was going on. So now, kind of during that time that you were playing, it sounded like you had a pretty decent support system. Like you had Val and like other friends, and you also had like some of your boys that you could talk to. So, how important is it for a student athlete of our level of like collegiate sports to have a support system like that when they're in season, out season, just anytime?
I think it's immensely important. You never know what's going to happen in life, in football, and school, and there's no way of calculating that. So I think having a support group with sport and outside of sport is like detrimentally important. College is hard. It's not easy. There's going to be times where you're going to falter. I think even the best athletes right now in college, in professional, can agree that this stuff is not going to be easy. You're going to need a support group. People have been through stuff. I've been through stuff where I just flat out couldn't deal, so I had to deal with or lean on other people to help. And I think that's generally what helped me get through some stuff was the people around me that supported me and told me that I could do this, I could get through any of this, and just kind of being there in moments of need. So that way I didn't fall down completely and they could pick me up when I couldn't.
And I know like mental health is a huge topic in sports for no matter what sport you play. And I think recently the Oregon QB came out and spoke about his mental challenges and how he wants the Oregon community, not only for like Oregon, like university football, but the state of Oregon to have more mental like trainers on staff to refer to when you go through shows. Obviously, he was dealing with a lot of not only pressures of competing at a D1 school, but also home life. Do you agree that more colleges should be willing to kind of incorporate a mental aspect to the team to be having help whenever you need it so you don't have to rely for somebody on your own and you have that ability to be still with the team and help understand what you're going through while you're still playing at your best?
I think so. Obviously, there's only so much family, friends, teammates can do or know. So I think having a professional can definitely help. We had one here on campus, but I think it was kind of hard to learn how to reach out to her at times. So I think having one that's more readily available is very well needed. They're professional. They'll be able to help you out a little bit more, give you strategies and stuff. Obviously, or even just listen. Just having a person that can listen to your issues and make you feel heard and seen. But I think definitely having some professionals on any level can really help. I think it's even needed in more high school. I don't think I had any mental health help in high school.
Yeah, I think having a support system, professional support system for a college program is huge because, like you said, college is hard, and you're kind of learning how to be an adult while also, you know, having to go to practice and lifts and get ready for game day and all this other stuff. So it's important. And I feel like a lot of athletes don't really take care of their mental health because they preach about being tough, like mentally tough, physically tough. Like there's just this big thing about just being tough. So like what does the phrase mentally tough mean to you? And do you think it makes it harder for athletes to open up because that phrase exists?
I think it definitely hurts people who are trying to open up. I think my definition of mentally tough now would be those who have struggle, let it get to them, but can overcome it. I think a lot of the times it's misjudged as like not letting anything get to you, constantly being perfect, constantly being on your A game, not letting any little mental thing get to you. So I think that's really flawed within the area of athletics where we're looking at nothing can get to you. You're unshakable. You're an unstoppable force. You're an immovable object kind of deal. But I think true mental toughness comes from having an issue, whether it's sport or personal, letting it get to you, but still overcoming it, getting better, and continuing to be the best athlete and person you can possibly be.
Yeah, I mean, among a lot of people that I know, I think you are easily the most mentally tough person I've ever met, and I respect the hell out of you for it. Like, I agree with everything that you just said 100%. Um, Now kind of bringing it back to football a little bit. You and I both different at different times of our careers decided to step away from football permanently and left the Pacific team. Now, is there any part of you that regrets that decision at all?
At first, 100%. I had trained 7 years, or I put 7 years of my life into becoming the best athlete, and I quit my senior year. So there's a little bit of like regret going into that. Like I could have just finished it, and then we obviously have a roommate teammate who still was still on the team. Seeing him continue to go to practice and like have his hardships and highs and lows, I definitely felt like I was stupid for kind of leaving at times. I could have just finished it. I could have just sucked it up and dealt. But I think giving myself grace, I quit when I needed to. I gave it my best shot. I'm happy with the 7 years I put into football, at least tackle football. I do regret it at times, but I think ultimately it was the right decision for me mentally and physically. So I'm trying to move on from that to do bigger, better things, stay active, find my own ways to kind of replicate the drive for sport. Football's not really leave my heart. It's not really my mind. It's always gonna be part of me for the rest of my life.
Speaking of that, I feel like a lot of athletes, when they do finally leave their sport, they find kind of, I feel like they find like part of them is missing, like part of their identity is missing, or like they need something else to kind of fill in that hole. Like, I know when I first left the boxer football team, I also was just like, well, pardon my language, but like, well, shit, what do I do now? Right. Cause like football had been a huge part of my life for like 5 to 6 years. And then now that it was gone, I didn't know what to do. Like, it was kind of weird that I didn't have to prepare for practices or meetings or watch film or go to lifts for a program. And now I needed to find something to kind of fill that hole. So after you left the boxer football team, what did you kind of do to fill that hole of football? And how did you like kind of get over missing football?
I think before leaving, I was kind of building up my professional and academic career. So I think a little bit more easy. I'm preparing to graduate, move on with my life with my girlfriend, figure all that out. So I think at that time, it was like perfect because I didn't have this whole year ahead of me of school of just watching and missing. I think what really ultimately helped was I took up running a little bit, try and do that every now and then. Weightlifting always. I've always enjoyed lifting weights, or at least since around football time. Learned to love it now. Just love the process of getting stronger and getting better. And then just filling up my time. Honestly, it felt good to have time at first, not spending 40 hours a week on football. But then I realized I have too much time on my hands and I don't like sitting still. So I think honestly, just filling it up with jobs, relationships, academics, building my career definitely helped. Just finding times to fit pieces of extra stuff into my schedule, but not too much to the point where it's overwhelming me to the same level of commitment that football had really helped me get on. So I don't think I lost too much of an identity because I was kind of pulling away from the idea of football, already focusing on what my life on football was going to be like at that time. Like I said, I didn't know I was fully prepared to play, and I quit the summer before my senior year. I was battling with it all summer. But I think at that point, I was developing my professional life to a point where I already had some gaps filled and I was kind of mentally leaving football, that it was a little bit of an easier transition for me.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of just like the last question I want to ask about your decision to leave. But for me personally, I want to say about 90% of my decision to leave the Pacific football team was just because I felt there was a real lack of connection between me and the coaches and me and the team itself. So was some of your reasons for leaving the team similar? Like, did you also feel like there was a lack of connection between you and the staff and you and your teammates, or was there something else?
Yeah, I feel like I made really, I don't want to say like shallow, but like base level connections, maybe a little bit further. But ultimately, I kind of felt separate from the team. I kind of felt like an outcast at times. I didn't feel like I meshed well with other people's personalities or kind of the idea of how a football team works at times. I was focused on other stuff. So I feel like that kind of aided my process. There's definitely some disconnect from some coaches. And the unfortunate thing about a college team is that your coaching staff's going to change at any time. I think the first year of me being here, I had 3 different receiving coaches. So it was always an adjustment trying to get to know the new one. And I don't think I've ever had the same coaching staff every year. It's always minorly changed. I haven't had the same offensive coaching staff every year. Everyone's either bumping around or we're getting someone new, trying to learn how that new coach is going to operate and what they're going to teach. So it's kind of hard to build those connections at times, when everything's changing. So I think that definitely aided in my process as well, where I felt like I had a good base level connection with players and coaches, but not anything super deep to make me want to stay.
I think that's a huge part too about it, right? It's like, first of all, I feel like you have to respect a coach to, especially the head coach, to really want to continue playing for a program. And, for me personally, that's just wasn't there. I didn't really respect his philosophy and kind of just the way that he seemed to carry himself or treat other players. So there's that. And then also for you, I'm assuming having to like get used to a new position coach almost every other year was probably pretty hard because like you said, they bring so many different things teaching wise, but then they also have different philosophies and like ways of thinking that you have to get used to as well, which can make it hard to kind of grow a connection when you're just meeting a dude for the first year and then you expect him to be back next year and then bro's just gone. So then you're like, damn, I was starting to build a connection with this coach. Now I got to build another connection with a different coach. So
I just
yeah.
think I got lucky because my position coach stayed from the end of my freshman year until I quit. He's still here today. But before I got here, I was told I was gonna go with one coach named Coach Rev. Left before season even started. I got a new coach that played at University of Mexico. He left by the time the season was over. Then we got the coach I had now, or did have, and he stayed throughout the rest of my career. So I feel like I was one of the lucky few, but everyone else almost had a different position coach every year, whether it was a completely new coach or they just switched positions. I think that definitely makes it harder to build those kind of connections.
Yeah, for sure. I remember Coach Rev. He was really fun, good dude, and he was a really good coach. So it's kind of fortunate that you didn't get to have him as your coach before he left, but I think you probably would have really liked him. I have one more question, but before that, I want my brother to ask you our question on this show. So go.
Of course, this is a question we ask all our guests here during your playing days or even now, if you go to the gym, whatever. Is there a song that really gets you fired up for the practice, the lift, just every day?
I don't know if there's a song. Usually, my music taste is always changing. Normally, it's just like the sound. As long as it's really loud, that's usually what gets me going. Unfortunately, my music taste changes every month, so I can't say there's usually one song. Usually, if it's just loud, it'll get me going.
It's true. His music taste does change every month.
Yeah, you can ask this guy. Whatever he's listening to is usually my music taste for the week.
Okay, so for the month of March, what has been your artist song that just kind of keeps you going? I got him on that one.
Yeah, I have to think. It's been weird. I think I'll say like this month after the Super Bowl, getting back into Latino reggae. So that was what I was listening to in the gym. So I think it's been more Bad Bunny, Rao kind of deal. I think that's
Mhm.
what I've mostly been listening to in the gym.
I mean, it's a good thing to turn on in the gym. It's like you said, it's loud and it's got a really good rhythm to it that, kind of gets your blood flowing, keeps you hyped up.
But yeah.
Definitely will not put you to sleep at any point in time. That is for
Mm-mm.
sure. So yeah, good choices. For my closing question, I want to ask you, how has football shaped you mentally and emotionally as a person, and what lessons have you taken away from your time playing football?
I think it's had a massive impact on who I've ultimately become. I think it's definitely made me more mentally tough, more prepared to deal with some of life's troubles. And it's definitely always just been like something I can fall back on. That if I ever had issues, mad at the world, let me go run routes for an hour. Let me just tire my body out kind of deal. Obviously, you kind of mentioned, or I mentioned, had some life issues. But I think football, teaching me stuff's going to be hard, stuff's going to be challenging, and knowing that I could overcome that and get through it slowly taught me to think of like, hey, life's going to be difficult, going to be challenging, going to throw things my way. Approach it like I would a practice or anything else. Chip away at it every day. You're going to get through it no matter what. This isn't going to be the end of me. It's not going to ruin everything. I can get over it. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to be done with it at some point. And then I think it's taught me a very good work ethic. Sorry, a very good work ethic that, if I just put in that effort, I can get very far. That's kind of what my philosophy was as an athlete, that you may be better talented at something, but my work ethic will outshine you, is what I always try to adopt. I think I've ultimately adopted that. I think it's got me in very high places in the workplace, in school. If I just put in effort and I try, I can get very far, get very good grades. Nothing can completely stop me, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing that I also really respect about you is your work ethic. I mean, you work your ass off and you work harder than a lot of people that I know. And it definitely shows in the classroom and in the workplace, especially when Cody and I pull up to your work and we're just trying to bother you, but you keep it professional, like you're always locked in. And I was like, dang, I could not do that because if my friends pulled up to my job, I'd be acting a fool. And this man's over here locked in. So like respect. Those are some really good lessons to take away from football, though, because it's definitely a sport that will teach you all about yourself, about what you can handle and how you can make yourself a better person. So it seems like you took away some good lessons. So I appreciate you sharing. And Hayden, you got any more questions for Noah before we wrap up? Okay, then. Thank you for coming on, Noah. It's good to talk to you for a bit about your experiences, bro. I appreciate you taking
Appreciate
some
you having
time.
me.
Of course, man. That's all we got for today. Appreciate y'all watching and stay tuned for more episodes, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.